One right there, Yoki, where you were just looking at. Good.
One enemy remains.
Okay, elbow.
Elbow.
Last
Good
player
job.
standing.
What is up, YouTube? It's Dr. Zor, helping cure you from being a noob. Valorant has just released, and I know there are a ton of new players that are coming in, and I want you guys to be prepared for what Valorant brings to the table and make sure that you have no surprises when you get into your games. This video will cover everything you need to know to play Valorant: the best agents, the best abilities, the best weapons, how to manage your currency, what to do as an attacker, and what to do as a defender. We will review all the basics that will help you have success early on in Valorant. The timestamps will be in the description. We make tons of Valorant tips and guides, so if this helps you out, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below on what tip helped you the most. And again, check out those other videos that will take you to another level in Valorant. Enough of that, let's get into it. Jumping right into it, Valorant is a 5 vs 5 tactical shooter. There is an attacker side and a defender side, which we will talk about later. Your team will select 5 agents to face off against the other team's agents, and the objective is to win 13 rounds before the enemy team does. Each agent has certain abilities that can drastically change the way you play the game. You have aggressive agents like Jett, Phoenix, Raze, and Breach, whose abilities will put pressure on the enemy. Jett uses wind and daggers that will give you great mobility to outplay your opponent. Phoenix and Breach have flashbangs that can blind opponents and give you free kills, and Raze has grenades and rockets that can do a ton of damage to the enemy. If you play these agents, you'll usually want to be the first or second man in, making those plays and creating space for your team to attack a site or defend a site. You also have supportive agents such as Brimstone, Sage, Viper, and Sova, who have abilities to assist your team in attacking and defending. Brimstone and Viper have smokes that can take away the enemy's vision. He and Viper also have Molotovs and poison that can deal damage to anyone who walks through it, and is very useful for blocking an enemy from going through an area. Sage has walls and slow orbs to also block enemies and slow down their aggression and slow down their push. Not only that, but she has an ability that can heal herself or a teammate, and her ultimate can resurrect a player back from the dead. Sage is essentially the ultimate support, and you should always have someone playing her at all times. And lastly, Sova's abilities are fantastic for getting information on the enemy locations, in which the team can then use to aggress them or find the most appropriate part of the map to go to. Moving on, there's defensive agents such as Cypher, whose main goal is to gather enemy information with his camera and then utilizing his traps and cage to really slow enemies down and allow your team ample time to come and support you. And the last agent on the roster, although we will have a new one at release, is Omen, who's really kind of a hybrid character. He has abilities that can teleport him and allow him to make aggressive moves, but also smokes to assist with those moves, but also allow him to play more of a defensive role as well to block off the enemy's vision. These agents have other abilities that I didn't mention yet, but I've gone through the main ones here, and I want you guys to really think about the roles that these agents play and how you can adjust your playstyle and utilize those abilities to fulfill that role as either an attacker or defender. One thing to add is the ultimate abilities need to get charged up in order to use them, and you can do this by grabbing orbs around the map, getting kills, or by planting or defusing the spike. Each ultimate has a certain number of points that you need to grab, and then you'll be able to use it. Now let's talk about the weapons, and I'm sure you guys are curious about that. So moving on to the weapons, you guys probably want to know what weapons to use, and I got you covered. Each weapon needs to be used a particular way, and I have guides on how to use all the weapons, in which I'll leave in the description. First thing to note is that there is an economy system. You get currency based primarily on whether you lose or win a round. Regardless if you win or lose, you get some kind of currency, but you will get more if you win. There are other ways to get currency as well, such as getting kills and planting the spike. You'll play half the rounds as the attacker and then half the rounds as a defender, in which your currency will start at 800 on each side. The first round is considered the pistol round, and I'll tell you right now that armor and abilities are really important in this game, and you want to purchase those and have that before you even consider a weapon. After that, the strongest pistol to use is the Ghost, and at higher levels the sheriff. The only submachine gun you should really buy is the Spectre, and the best weapons in the game that you should usually save your money for is the Phantom and Vandal. These are the rifles that you will want to have for the majority of the match. Lastly, there is the Operator, which is a sniper rifle, but it is very expensive, so I wouldn't touch this weapon yet until you master the other ones. But I do have a guide on sniping as well if that's of your interest. So to summarize, you always want light or heavy armor when you can, as well as purchasing your abilities, and once you have those, in order from highest to least priority, you can purchase the Vandal, Phantom, Spectre, Sheriff, or Ghost. Before these purchases, also make sure to check on your team's currency before you buy a weapon on your own. If you buy a big weapon and your team has no money for anything, you'll be the only one suited up for the fight and the rest of your team is at a disadvantage. So in these cases, you may want to save your money and wait until the next round so that you and everyone else has money to buy together as a team. Again, if you need help using these weapons, check out those other guides in the description. And I'll mention the obvious here, aiming is really important to using these weapons, and along with learning the weapons, you want to pick an appropriate mouse sensitivity, which you guessed it, we got a video for that as well. But to give you a starting point, you want a sensitivity where you can do roughly a 180-degree turn when you glide across your mouse pad. More details again will be on my aim guide video. Alright, now getting into the juicy content. In Valorant, you have an attacker side and a defender side. The attacker side goal is to push onto a site and plant the spike. Depending on the map you play, there will be 2 or 3 sites that you can choose from, marked A, B, and sometimes C. The best way to win on attacker side is to stick together as a team so that you can overwhelm the enemy. To achieve this, make sure you communicate with your teammates on what the game plan is and what site you want to go for. To get onto the sites, you'll have to take out enemies who are defending the site itself, but just as importantly, there will be enemies on different parts of the map outside of the site too, who will be trying to block off those pathways that can take you to the site. Utilize your teammates and abilities to assist you in taking those enemies out, and also make sure to listen to sound. Enemies will make sound if they are running, and that can give away their position, so make sure to listen for noise. And there are also certain abilities that can give away your location as well and make noise. Also pay attention to your sound as well. If you're running around, the enemy can also hear you and can take you out with their positional knowledge. Once you eliminate the enemies and clear out a site, you can then plant the spike. There are only certain areas that you can plant the spike, and they are outlined by a white border. The spike takes roughly 4 seconds to plant, so you always want to pay attention to the timer on the top of the screen to ensure that you have that time to get the spike down. If you don't plant the spike and the timer runs out, you will lose the round as well, even though your teammates are still alive. Once the spike has been planted, the objective now is to defend the spike. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but the attacking part has been done at this point. You've gone onto the site and planted, and now you need to defend and prevent the enemy from taking the site back and defusing the spike. The spike takes 45 seconds to explode, so you'll have to eliminate the enemies before that or prevent the enemy from getting onto the spike and defusing. It takes 7 seconds to defuse the spike, and the closer the spike gets to exploding, the louder and faster the sound it will make. And that's when you know that the enemy can no longer win, and you also need to run away. If the spike explodes, it will wipe out the site in some of the areas around it, so you want to make sure that you're outside of that range when the explosion occurs. And lastly, we have the defender side. The goal on this side is to prevent the attackers from taking over a site and planting the spikes. There are multiple pathways that the team can go to get to the site, and these are called choke points. You want to split up your team so that each choke point is covered and there is no possibility that an enemy could get through a part of the map undetected. Communication is also key in the defender side. If you see an enemy or hear an enemy, call it out so that your teammates can help you take them out. If you see a bunch of enemies, it's likely they're going to try to take over the site or that choke point, and you need to call for backup and use your abilities to slow them down and take them out. Likewise, if you see a bunch of enemies where your teammates are, you may want to go over and help them out. This is called rotating, and it allows you to get a better position where the enemies may be. And again, this is why communication is so important, because you need to give information on what everyone's doing, but also give information that anyone finds on enemy locations so that you can rotate over to help kill them before they overwhelm you or your teammate. If the spike does get planted though, you will have to eliminate the enemies and take back the spike, and this is called a retake. Try to identify where the enemies are, and you can use the spike location to figure this out, as they will likely be in a position where they can easily peek and see it. The main objective here is to defuse the spike though. You don't actually have to take out every enemy, and if they are in a bad position, you might be able to straight up defuse the spike, and if you do that, you will win the round even if their team has players alive. That's all I have for this video. Again, we went through the very basics, the agents, the weapons, the aiming, the sensitivity, how to attack, how to defend, what is the spike, maps, everything. We've gone through it all, and if you want more in-depth details, we have tons of videos in the description as well as a playlist to help you out. If this video did help you out, make sure to again smash that like button, like the video. Let's try to get to 200 likes, and make sure to comment again on which tip helped you out the most. I'm Dr. Zor, helping cure you from being a noob, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.